you cannot. So hello. We're getting started. We're really getting into Python. I'm really excited, and just have a couple announcements for the class. So I'm going to start putting this what you need for today's slide on here on every slide so that you guys know what websites you need to go ahead and pull up. So today we're just going to use Replit. I'm hoping to get GitHub able for us to use in class by Thursday. Hopefully that'll happen. If we're ending up not able to like have our own group on GitHub, then I'll just teach you how to do it yourselves. And we'll just kind of work with that as much as we can. But I will teach you GitHub. Don't worry, I know some of you are looking forward to that. But today we're just going to use Replit or repl.it. I don't really know how to say that. I just say Replit. Okay, another thing that I wanted to talk about real quick is holidays. So Juneteenth is celebrated on Monday, June 20th, which is a week from today. And it's not a Vanderbilt University holiday, so this is part of Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt technically is still going on that day, but I wanted to leave it open to you guys if you wanted to still have class that day, because it is important that it's a national holiday. And if you want to take that day off, that is totally fine. I thought we could decide as a class, or maybe we could just have an optional work day or something. So if you have suggestions, put it in the class or let me know. Yeah, Anthony?
I was just about to ask if it was going to be optional.
Yeah. I don't want to make anyone come in on Juneteenth or any holiday.
I don't want June 20th off. I just want to make it to class.
Okay, well then maybe we'll have just like a working day or something, if that's okay with everyone. Yeah, Cameron?
Well, on June 30th, I'm invited to a Pirates game with Special Olympics, so I might miss class.
Oh, Donovan. Okay.
What is the holiday Juneteenth actually like celebrate? Just the date?
So it, as far as the history that I know, it is the. All right, Donovan, if I have to meet you again, I'm kicking you out. As far as
off.
Okay, you say off. It is celebrating the day that the slaves in Texas were told of the Emancipation Proclamation. And someone, please correct me if I don't have the correct information on that, but definitely look up.
June 19th, that's what I like to call the Inside Out anniversary.
Okay.
I had no idea. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's kind of important. I thought it was just
because
like a date or something.
Inside Out movie on Friday, June 19th.
So did I.
Sorry, I was muted. I don't know how long I was muted. But yes, it was just made a federal holiday last year, I think. So it's a bit new. Some people haven't caught up to including it in their calendars, which I think is important that they do. Yes, Yadru.
So what do you mean by a working day? Is it just a day to just come in and ask questions?
Yeah, if we have interest in that, we could just have an open Zoom session and you guys can come in and ask questions. Or work on stuff or show me different Python stuff that you're working on or want to work on or something. So if there's interest in that, then I can have that, but it'll definitely be optional. I probably won't record it, or maybe I can. I don't know. I'll record it, but it won't be something that if you take the day off, then you're missing out on a lot. So so yeah, it sounds like we have some interest in having that. So yeah, if you have any thoughts, just let me know. Sounds like some people want to take it off and some people want to work. Totally good. Okay, and then the other one, 4th of July is on a Monday, which is when our class normally is, but Vanderbilt has that day off, and 4th of July is typically
Yes.
Yeah, on the July 4th, so we won't have class that day. So
that's good. I'll take that off my schedule.
Okay, yeah, so definitely enjoy some fireworks if you like those, or just being outside. So, okay, yeah, so Juneteenth, Monday, June 20th, we will probably just have an optional day to come in and ask questions. 4th of July, we will not have class. All right. Yeah, okay, so Jonathan's calling me out. 4th of July is celebrated on July 4th. So what I was gonna say is it's usually celebrated the Monday after July 4th for like the day that you get off, but it's on a Monday. So that's why my brain broke a little bit there. Okay, something really weird is happening with my TXT file. That is a chat. Can you add to that? What do you mean? Okay, yeah, you can type that in the chat if you need some more help with that. And then I'll just keep going. So I want to put in this slide. We are going to pick up the pace a bit, which I think some people will be excited about. But if you don't want to pick up the pace, don't worry. So now that you guys have the basics of Python, I'm going to be adding more methods each class. And I hope you enjoy it. I'm very excited. If you do prefer more time or more practice to learn concepts, that's totally fine. I would definitely recommend following along with this tutorial that I have here. It's called Scientific Computing with Python, and it's on freecodecamp.org. That should say Free Code Camp, not Code Campbell. It's called Scientific Computing with Python. It's really good. I love this website. It breaks all of its lessons down into one singular thing. So you just learn one thing and then you practice it for a bit and then you move on to the next thing. It's very good if you like to learn at your own pace or if you like to practice over and over. So I definitely recommend that. But also if you're struggling, feel free to reach out to me or a TA. We have for TAs, and you can reach out to us on email or Discord. For TAs, we have Isaac, who's IS Humshark on Discord. I believe their name is Brendan, but their screen name is Monsoon, and that's how I know them. But it's Monsoon and T. So if you need help, reach out to them or reach out to me. And then if you want more challenges, I think that you'll be excited because I'll start adding more tiered assignments, just adding some bonus stuff or extra challenges or extra assignments for you to work on if you tend to be the kind of person that finishes early or just wants extra stuff to work on during the week. So, all right. So last week, we talked about the print statement and we talked about the input statement. So if you weren't here last week, be sure to watch that video that we posted on the YouTube. Print, it just prints to screen. It's not really assigned to a variable. You can see it right here. You just type print, and then in parentheses, you have your string. The input statement assigns a variable using input that the user will enter on this side over here with the console. So it'll say, enter your name, and then I typed Miranda, and then hit enter. And then this prints hello plus name. So, all right, yeah, we're trying to help someone with the text file. Okay. So yes, assign this to a variable. And it lets the user put in input, and we did have some confusion. So the code goes on this side with the main, where it says main.py and you have def main. This is where all your code goes. The input statement lets someone else enter input, which right now someone else is you because you're writing it and testing it yourself, but you're going to enter it on the console and then press enter, and then your program will continue running. So this will wait until you're done entering, or till you press enter. And like I said, it's assigned to variables. So someone is asking, will we be doing groups today? I'm gonna switch it up a bit. I think I'm just gonna have us all work on something in the main room, and if you have questions you can ask them, but we're going to see if you guys prefer to do that or if you prefer to be in groups. So we'll just play that by ear and see what you guys like the best, because I do want to make it that you are benefiting from groups, but sometimes when I pop in there it doesn't look like everyone is
I did my name
sharing screen.
I did that already, so
yeah, no, you're good. We're not doing this in groups. This is just a recap. Okay. So moving on, this week we're going to be talking about operations. You use a lot of operations in Python. They allow you to manipulate variables. So this is basically math. When you're talking about numbers, you can do some comparisons like greater than or equal to, and then you can even manipulate strings with concatenation, which some people have already been excited about and wanted to know about. So you do have different operations for different types of variables. That's why the type of variable is important. And I will go ahead and go over there. Okay, so it looks like we have so I can't get to that text file that you sent right now, but I do see that it looks very angry. But we're not really working with text files in this class, so you shouldn't have to worry about it. So for operations, for ints and floats, so that's variables that are integers and then variables that are decimals, we're going to be using mathematical operations, which that makes sense. So it's add, subtract, multiply, divide, stuff like that. And so this is how you represent it in Python. So we have the plus sign just for addition. We have the minus sign, which is just the dash. It's nothing fancy. And then multiplication, which is the star or the asterisk. We have division, which is the forward slash. Exponentiation, which is 2 stars. Then we have integer division and modulo, which you may not be familiar with, but that's okay. We'll talk about
remainder.
it. And yeah, remainder. So integer division is also called floor division. It basically just means if you divide 2 numbers and it comes up with a decimal, you just chop off that decimal and you just take the integer. So I'll show some more examples of these and like what these answers would actually be. But integer division will return an integer. It won't round up ever. It always rounds down to the integer that's below it. And then modulo, also another name for remainder. This is just saying if you divide these 2 numbers, what is the remainder? So instead of returning a decimal or the actual division, what it is, you return what is left over. So I'll show some examples of that later. But one thing important to note is that int and float can be in the same operation. That's totally fine. It will typically convert the variable to a float. So the int number will be a decimal or a float. And like I said, I'll show you some examples later. Okay, do we need spaces between the numbers and symbols? No, you don't. I recommend putting spaces between the numbers and symbols because it's more readable. And by readable, I just mean it's easier for me to look over my code if it's all spaced out like that, but it's not required. Okay, so like I said, integers and floats can be in the same operation, but integer division returns, integer division and modulo will always return an integer. So like I said, if you don't understand what all these words mean exactly, we're going to go over some examples. All right, so this first one here, if we were to assign x to equal 5 plus 7.0, the answer would be 12.0, and the variable type would be a 12. So even though we have an int here and a float here, it just makes it a float. So we have basically 5 plus 7, and so we get 12. All right, simple enough. But do let me know if you have questions. Sometimes people like to come up with some exceptions or ask about it. So here we have 2 ints. So we have 10, which is an integer, minus 6, which is an integer. So now we have 4, and the answer is an integer. All right, same thing here. We have 3 times 12. This will be 36, which is an integer. We've got no decimals there. Next one, we do have a decimal, so it ends up being a float. This one here, we have 12 divided by 4, which is 3. That's an integer. 10 divided by 3 would return 3.33333, and it'll just keep going. It doesn't really matter how many numbers are past this decimal point. Python will store however many points past the decimal it can store. I don't remember that off the top of my head, but you typically don't have to worry about that, but it will be a float. So this one, this is exponents. So we have 4 star star 2. This is 4 squared, which is 16, which is an integer. And now, so this is a bit tricky, but I really like this. I use this a lot. This is a way to do square root. So if you have 4 raised to the power of 0.5, it's actually the square root of something. So 4 to the 0.5 is 2. And in this case, because we have a decimal here, the final answer will be a decimal, which is a float. All right, same thing if we do square root of 10, this is ending up not being a really nice number, but this is still a float. And then here's integer division. So we say 10, integer division 3. This will return 3 because 10 divided by 3 is going to be, like we have up here, 3.33333. It's just going to take that, it's going to chop off any part of this that is a decimal, and it's going to make it a whole number 3. So this will be an integer. Do we have any questions on integer division? Yeah, no, basically no decimal, it'll be an integer, decimal, it'll be a float. And then integer division and modulo will always return an integer. So yep. Now we have modulo. So this is 7, you say it like 7 mod 2. So you pronounce this as mod or modulo, but I say mod. So you say 7 mod 2. This is saying how many times what is left over when you try to divide 7 by 2. So if you actually did 7 divided by 2, it would be like 3 0.1, right? Because 2 times 3 is 6, but then you have 1 left over. And this would make more sense if you were doing like division how people used to with like long division, and looked at how many numbers are left over and trying to explain remainder. But the most common way that you'll see this is mod 2, because that will actually tell you if something is even or odd. Because if it's perfectly divisible by 2, then mod 2 would return 0 because there's 0 remainder. But if it's not divisible by 2, it'll return 1 because it's remainder 1. So basically, it's like if you did division and then you just took the remainder part. Okay, would 4 times 1/2 come back as an int since no decimal? Okay, that's a really good question. So the question for the chat, if you don't see it, is would this double star here, if this was 1 divided by 2, would that come out as an integer or decimal? That would be an integer, which is a really good question. Because you put the in parentheses, you have 1 divided by 2. So Python doesn't really do fractions, but you can kind of do fractions if you just use the slash for division. So first it'll do 1 divided by 2. Actually, then that would be 0.5 because it'll do that. But you can check this. Okay. If you check it in Python, say like print that, so 4 to the power of 1 divided by 2, I believe it will be a float actually. So yeah, that is a little tricky, but you can always check these. So I thought I had it on this slide, but you can always check your answers by typing it into Python, type like print and then whatever operation you want to do. And if it comes back with a decimal on it, then you know it's a float. If it comes back with no decimal, then it's an int. And then, so there's always a good way to check your answers there. All right. Okay, so let's practice this a bit. I want to make sure everyone is understanding. So feel free to type your questions in the Discord or, oh, okay, thank you. Yep. So 2.0 plus 5. Okay, we are having, yes, so you guys are right. It is 7, but what everyone is forgetting is the decimal point, yes. So because we have 2.0 plus 5, it'll be 7.0, right? And then that makes it a float, yeah. So 7.0, so that's a float. Yeah, we pretty much all got it. So good job, all right. Let's do next one, 8 divided by 5. And if you don't like math, you can always, like I said, you can always type it into Python if you don't want to think about what that is. But what are we thinking this is going to be? Okay, yeah, I don't know the answer.
And float.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 1.6 and float, exactly. So yeah, and that's totally fine if you're like, I don't feel like doing that in my head, but it is a float. That's good to know. Okay, now we have 9 mod 3. So this is if you say 9 divided by 3, what's the remainder? Yep, yep. So 9 divided by 3 is 3, and there's 0 remainder because there's nothing left over when you say 9 divided by 3. If modulo is not making sense to you right now, that's okay. I can send you some resources for it. It's not going to be vital to you understanding how to code. But yeah, so it'll be, so I am seeing some people say 3, but it's not 3, it's 0. 9 divided by 3 is 3, but 9 mod 3 is 0 because 9 is perfectly divisible by 3. There's no remainder. Yep, 0 remainder, and it's an int. Yep. Okay, now we have some integer division or floor division. So this is 3 integer division 2. All right, we've got some answers coming in. So 3 integer division 2.
I have 1 an integer.
Yes, so I am seeing some 1.5. So it's really important to remember there's 2 slashes here. So this is integer division, which means that it will take the, so this would be 1.5 if it was 3 divided by 2, but this is 2 slashes, which is integer division, which means it just whacks off whatever comes after the decimal point. So it's 1, and it'll be an integer. Yeah. So those are just some different examples of operations. One thing that's great about coding is you can always check your answer. You can always print after you assign a variable, if you're doing some math over here, you can say print x, and it'll print that out. You can even say print type parentheses x, which I'll tell you about that later. But Python can help you a bit by using print statements. All right.
Now we're going to talk about negative numbers.
Yeah, so now we've got negative numbers. I just wanted to throw this in here. I wasn't sure where to throw it in, but I wanted to let you know that you can represent negative numbers just with the same sign that you use for subtraction. So just
Like
this little dash.
-4, -2.5.
Yeah, exactly. So you can have negative integers, you can have negative floats, negative numbers, totally fine in Python. All right, so now order of operations. So
Please excuse my dear and Sally, which the acronym that I learned from math.
Yeah, exactly. Some people use please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. I think in 5th grade we learned like a rap or something, which I'm not going to recite for you. But so
that's easy. I know that.
But yeah, so if you don't know PEMDAS, well, hold on 1 second. I'm going to explain this. So we have the order of operations here, and this is just the order in which Python is going to execute statements. So if you have something complicated like this, PEMDAS means parentheses, then exponents, then multiplication and division, then addition and subtraction. And you'll do this left to right. So first you'll do parentheses, then you'll do exponents, then you'll do multiplication, division, left to right. So if you have multiplication and then division, you'll do the multiplication first, and then you'll do addition and subtraction left to right as well. So like I said, this is just how Python does its math. So always make sure that you know your order of operations. And we've got some guesses for this, yes. So first we'll do, oh, David, did you want to say how you did it? I think I heard you saying the answer. Oh, you're muted.
It was 11 in an integer.
Yeah, so first we do parentheses. So we'll do 4 minus 2, which is 2. Then we'll do multiplication, 5 times 2, which is 10. And then plus 1, it's 11. So yeah, it looks like we've all got this. I just wanted to make sure we all got this out of the way so we know how Python thinks about it. So one tip though, like I said, when in doubt, put your parentheses in, put your numbers in parentheses. That makes sure that you know what operation will happen. So first you do so if you have double parentheses, you do the inner one first. So you do 4 minus 2, then 5 times that answer, and then plus 1. So I like to add parentheses to everything, just so I know exactly what Python is going to be doing, just in case for some reason I forget how to do order of operations or something. All right, and then another thing, like I said, use print. If you're not sure what the answer will be, or you just want to check that you know what it'll be, use print and print that number. Okay, so using these operations in Python, I wanted to put up a few examples. So here I'm assigning x to be 1, y is 5, and then I'm doing z equals x plus y. So when I print z, what'll that print? Yeah, 6. So just a little example here. So that's mostly how you'll be using these type of operations. You'll have some numbers, and then you'll say another number equals, and then these numbers with some operations in between. So let's look at oh, I thought I had another example. Okay, I don't. But let me know if you have questions. I can go back, and I wanted to show, oh, now we're on strings. Okay, so I wanted to show some examples. All right, so if I have, what should I do? Does anyone have an example for me that they want to type or that they want to check? I'll just start typing stuff. So you can name your variables whatever you want. I'm just using x and y because it's easy to type. But if I have x 4.999 and y equals, I hope you can see my screen where I'm coding. Y equals 5. So if I print x to the y, whoa, and that's float. All right, I'm going to do another modulo so that we have some idea. So I'm going to do 10 and y equals 2. And okay, yeah. I do x. Now I'm going to replace this with the percent sign, which is mod x mod 2. And I'm going to run that. So first of all, does anyone want to guess what this will be before I run it? X mod 2. Oh, I've got a good example. So you'll do, so x is 10, y is 2. Yeah, so say how much is left over when you take 10 divided by 2? It's 0, yeah. So 0, and there's no decimal point here, so we know that it's an int. Yeah, exactly, good job. Okay, now I'm gonna do, let's say 11 mod 2, and what will that give me? 11 mod 2. So 11, so yes, so 11 mod 2 will be 1. Good, and then I see it's 0 because it's even. Yes, if you, one cool thing that you can check to see if a number is even or not, which you typically know if a number is even or not, but if you are doing some calculation and then you want to see if the number is even, you can say mod 2. And so anything mod 2, if it's 0, it's even, and if it's 1, it's odd. Because if you divide an even number by 2, it'll always be perfectly divisible and have 0 left over. But if you divide an odd number by 2, it'll always have 1 left over. So, all right, checking for questions. Can you divide by 0? No. I will show you what happens when you divide by 0, just so we can see. So I've got x equals 11, y equals 0. What happens when we ask Python to divide by 0? Ah! It gets angry. But so whenever you get stuff like this is the error, and it'll have this thing that usually starts with traceback. It looks really scary. If you go to the very bottom of the line, it'll tell you exactly what happens. So that's actually pretty good to read these, but it says 0 division error, division by 0. That's because we can't divide by 0.
You cannot divide by 0.
Right. Okay, so we did some of that. Any other examples that people really just want to see, or are we good to move on? Okay. Now let's go to strings. Okay, yeah, so that is, so I see some stuff in the Discord asking about why is it wrong. That is the difference between, so it's if v equals 1, that's the difference between assignment operator and actually comparing if something is equal, which we'll talk about that later. So Pilot Houston 5, I'm so sorry, I just see your username. I don't know what your real name is. I think Isaac is about to type that in. All right, now let's go on to strings. So strings, you cannot put them in an operation with floats or ints. That just really doesn't make any sense. How do you say 1 plus s? That doesn't make sense. But strings can be concatenated with other strings. So if I have a variable called myString and it's AB plus CD, then my string is equal to ABCD. The same if I have something in quotes that's like a punctuation or something, still a string, you can say hello plus exclamation mark, and this will make hello exclamation mark. But numbers inside of quotes are strings. So even if it's a number, if it has quotes around it, it's a string. So if I say A equals 5 with quotes around it, that is still a string. And so we can do some cool stuff with input and printing with that. Okay. Can you subtract a string? No, not with this kind of subtraction. There are some specific string methods that we'll not get to in this lesson today that will let you
Because if you
take stuff
subtract
out.
the string, it will come out error blank.
Yeah, right, but it will not do that, no. So basically the only one we'll be learning today, the only one that you can do with operations is like is the plus sign. So we'll do some examples of that. All right, so now if I say x equals Python and y equals is great with a space, because this white space here, or it's dark space here, but this space counts as a character. So if I say Python plus is great, I'm going to do print x plus y. That's just the only operation you can do with strings, but we're going to run this. And it says Python is great, yay. So I just want to show you, remember to put that space here. If I get rid of it, it will say Python is great. So, all right, and the same with, I'm trying to think of some other examples. Yeah, exactly. It was Pythonus.
Pythonus is a hard name to define. I don't know
Yeah.
that either.
So make sure you have is great. And then you can
Probably
even add,
because it doesn't exist.
all right, so now let's say my age is, and then I'm gonna make up an age here, 105. Since this 105 is in quotes, it's a string. So if I run this, then they can be added together. We have my age is 105. All right, can we concatenate string?
105 means you're dead.
I don't know, there's some people that are 105. Can we concatenate string and int? So you can only concatenate them if they are in quotes here. So
I tried to get to do a Java assignment my own way, but doing it one way doesn't work, which is very frustrating to me.
what doesn't work?
Do my it's confusing. I can't
Oh, okay.
understand it.
Well, maybe we can work that out, but okay, so now there are 5 cats. I'm gonna add a space so that there's a space. And I'm just showing you how you can make this go on forever if you want to keep adding strings. But yeah, that's called concatenation. So if you want to use numbers, you have to put them in quotes. All right. Let's go back to this. Okay. So now escape characters. We talked a little bit about this last week. Some people were thinking ahead and wondering how you can add, if you have your input statement, how you can add an extra line after that so that you can, yeah, doing that without spaces would be there are 5 cats. Sorry, escape characters. You can use the backslash, not the forward slash, the backslash. So the one that you probably don't use as much. It kind of looks strange. It tilts. I don't know if I don't know if Zoom is making me a mirror or not, but you don't want this slash, you want that slash. It's called the backslash. It allows you to include characters and strings that Python normally can't represent. So a new line, you can't really represent, oh, I want there to be a new line here by pressing enter, because then you're just pressing enter on Python. But you can do that with \n. So this is in quotes as if it's a string, and you do \n. And that means new line. So if you are printing something and you print one word and then \n and then another word, it'll put those 2 words on different lines. And then, yeah, so someone is saying, oh, this is similar to another language that you know. A lot of code languages have a lot of similar aspects, so especially with escape characters. Another escape character is \t. This just adds a tab. I don't really use this one that much, but if you want to add exactly 5 spaces to something, you can use \t. You can also use the backslash to add in quotes. So you have a quote in, you surround a string with quotes, but then how do you actually add quotes to your string? So you can do that with the backslash. So you precede it with this backslash, and then you can put the quote. And then don't forget to end your string with a quote. You can also do it with this single quote here. If you want to say like I'm, like I''m, you use this backslash. And then if you want to add a backslash for some reason, you can do \\. And those are the only ones that I think you'll really ever use. Probably just this \n or the \quote if you ever want to put it in. But so they're just some interesting ones. So I have some examples here. We have my mom says hi. And so you can see I have a \quote and then \quote. But my whole string is still encoded in these quotes here. So this prints out my mom says hi. All right, and now if I have name equals input into your name, this is exactly what we were doing last week. And some people were saying, I want to be able to enter my name on the next line. So if you don't have this \n, then it'll just have you enter it here. If you do have the \n, it puts it on another line. This is kind of like Discord. It ignores all it does and takes it as raw text. Yeah, so a lot of different software use this as well. Okay, so I want to show you some examples of that too. So let's say my string equals, let's say hello \n. How are you? And then if I print my string, all right, we're gonna run it and see it puts a backslash in. And if you notice it's got this weird space, that's because I actually put a space there. So if I don't put a space there, they'll be lined up.
Oh, the
yes.
video that I watched told me to write the word input to put in some input, just like we use the scanner object in Java.
Yeah, it's very similar to scanner in Java. So yeah, so now it prints hello, how are you? Because of this new line character here. So those are pretty useful. I mostly just use new line if you're doing input or something. Otherwise, you don't really need to know these. You could just kind of have a little chart that tells you what they are. You don't have to exactly memorize them. Okay, so now we're going to talk about typecasting. So when we use the input function, it assigns the input that you enter to that variable, but this comes back as a string, which is not fun if you want to do math on whatever the person puts in. So you can do something called typecasting. This allows you to convert a variable from one type to another. So you use the way that you do this is you just call the name of the type that you want, put in parentheses, and then the number that you want to convert. So if we want to convert 4.9 to an integer, we would say int 4.9, and this would be 4. Everything that I've shown you here will round down if it's a float to an integer. We will learn some methods to round up, but most things by default will just chop off this decimal thing and just make it the int. Okay, yes, Cameron, I see you have raised your hand.
If I want to do this with an input, I would put the input in the brackets, or not brackets, I can't think of the name right now.
Oh, the parentheses?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'll show an example of that, but yeah, exactly. So if you did this with input, you would put your input statement right here.
What if there was text in there as well? So it would just pick out the numbers instead of the text?
Well, so that's if someone entered text, it would probably throw an error because it can't do text to integer.
Okay, well, like it can't pick out the numbers out of the text. Like if somebody wrote my favorite number is 4, it couldn't pick out 4. Okay,
exactly.
That's what I was wondering. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a little bit dumb in that way. It can't just look at it and be like, oh, this is the number that I want. Although feel free to try any of these things. I might get some of these little details and exceptions wrong. So if anyone can do that, let me know, but I'm pretty sure it would not be able to do that. And then yes, Preston.
In the third bullet point, why do you put the 5 in parentheses?
So
I mean, in quotations.
Yeah, so I'll go through these one at a time. So yeah, so like I said, if I wanted to make this an int, I would do int 4.9 and make it 4. If I want to convert 3.2 to a string, it just basically puts quotes around it. If I want to convert 5 in a string, so if someone enters 5 on the console from an input statement, it brings it in as a string. And then you can say int 5 in quotes, and it'll know that it needs to take that to 5. So as long as the numbers are the only thing in quotes, you can convert it to the number that you want. So this is what happens when you try int on a string. Yep, yeah, thank you for putting that in. So if you guys want to see what happens if you try to convert a string of letters to an int, it won't know what to do and it'll print out this error here. It'll say value error. So thank you for that. And then finally we have float 1. So we have an integer here. If we want to make it a float, we could just use float and it'll just add a 1.0. So there is in Python a difference between 1 with no decimal point and 1.0. So make sure that you pay attention to that. So this is how I wanted you to think about implying it. When you have your input statement, it will assign that as a string. So if I say, how old are you? And you're supposed to enter that. If you enter 10, Python will take that as a string. So if we want to convert that and do some math on it, then you can convert it using this typecasting that I've just shown you. So you can use int or float to convert that to a number that you can actually use. So I'm going to show you how that works. So I'm going to say, let's say gonna say number because I'm being lazy right now, but number equals input. What kind of question do we want to ask? We can say, how many cats do you have? Because I love cats. And then say cats plus 2 equals number plus 2. I'm going to call this cats so that you know what it is. Number of cats. I'm just making my code more readable for you. It doesn't really matter what you name these variables. I just want to make sure that when you read this over, you'll know what it is. So make sure that if you change a variable name, change it where you use it. And then I'm going to say print plus 2. So if I have this input statement, it's going to say, how many cats do you have? And I'm going to put a backslash in here so we can see how we apply that. So this should put my answer on a new line. And then if you want to see how many cats would you have if you got 2 more, if you wanted a cat calculator for some reason, then you can say this equals number of cats, which is that, plus 2. And then if we want to print that number, we can print cats plus 2. So we're going to click run on this. How many cats do you have? I have 2 cats. Enter. Oh no. Can only concat. Oh, because I forgot to do exactly what I'm teaching you. Oh no. So I'm going to say, you can do this one of 2 ways. You can put int here. And I'm using int because I don't want people to say they have 2.5 cats because that would be concerning. I just want whole number cats only. But so you can wrap this whole thing in int. Don't forget you have their open parentheses here and their close parentheses here. And that will do it. So if I click run, how many cats do I have? I have 2 cats. And then it prints out that plus 2. I can also do it somewhere else. So you can do it wherever you use this variable. So right now we read in number of cats. It's input as a string. Now I can say down here, number of cats equals int number of cats. You can do it right there if that makes more sense to you. 0.5 cats equals a kitten. Okay, we can go with that. All right. I'm going to run it just to show you that it'll do the same thing. Hit 2, and it's able to convert that to an int. So those are a couple ways that you can do that. You could also put the int around it where you use it here. But I like to do it where I either assign the variable or I make a new line to assign it again so that I don't forget, like I did earlier. All right, so now if I want to add some more text, let's just make this a little cooler. I can say, I'm going to put some text. I'm actually going to do it up here. So my string equals, you could have space. And then I'm going to print my string plus that plus cats. So we've got a lot going on here. We've got calling input, say number of cats equals input, how many cats do you have? The user will enter this as, and it'll come back as a string. Here we have a line to convert it to an integer, to a number. And then next we have cats plus 2 is just some number that we want to make where we add the number of cats and 2. And then my string is just a string that I've defined that I want to concatenate to something I want to print. I'm going to print my string plus this cats plus 2 number, and then plus the word cats. How many cats do I have? I have 2. What happened? Did I do it again? Number of cats. Oh, haha. Because now it's an int. Oh no, this was more complicated than I meant for it to be. You have to convert it to a string if you're going to add them. Yep, thank you. You guys caught it. See? Everyone makes errors. All right, now I'm going to do it. I'm going to do 2. How many cats do you have? 2. You could have 4 cats.
Much better.
Yeah, but I can make it even better by adding a space so that it is clearer. Sorry, if you didn't see that, it was 4 cats with no space. All right, how many cats do I have? I have 2. You could have 4 cats. All right, so that's an example of this. So I did have a lot going on in this one. there were a lot of different examples kind of combining everything we've done. So this is getting oddly specific. Yeah. Can you tell that I really love cats? 20 cats is a lot of cats. All right, so this is just combining everything that we've done so far with strings. If you're confused, let me know. Does anyone have any questions on this? Or do we want some more examples? I can do some examples that you want, if we want simpler ones or more complicated ones. And then after this, I have an activity that you can do either by yourself or with some friends. So if there are any questions, please let me know. I can go over this one again if you want. I'm going to remove it right now and just show a simpler one. So if I have int equals 5, and I could say my string equals string 5. So that's another way that you could do this. All right, let's go on to the activity. Okay, so here's some practice. So I have two tasks. If you just do one, that's totally fine. If you finish the first one and want to move on to the second, that is also totally fine. I think for this task, I'm going to have you all stay in the main room, unless you. So what I'm thinking for this one is everyone stay in the main room, and then if you have questions, you can raise your hand and ask, or you can put them in the chat. That way I don't have to hop around to a bunch of different rooms. But if you do like the opportunity to share your screen and talk with other people, I can open another room that you can go into. So just let me know if you prefer that. But I just wanted to try this one this time, and then afterwards you guys can tell me if you hated it or if you loved it. So all right, so for the first task, I want you to, in Replit, ask the user to input their age, and then print out how old they will be in 10 years. So you're gonna need, if you want some hints, you're going to need an input statement. You're going to need to convert the input from a string to an int, and then, or a float, either one if they say I'm 10 and a half years. And then you're going to want to do an operation to add, and then print out what that age would be in 10 years. Okay. I will open an optional sharing room that you guys can go into if you want. The second task, which focus on this task first, and then if you want to move on, you can move on to task 2. All right, so I'm going to find the buttons that Zoom likes to hide from me. Okay, so I'm going to make one breakout room, and I'm going to let you guys choose to go into that room. And if you want to talk it out with some other people, you should be able to add yourself to it. All right, or you can stay in here, and then I'll be in here. If you have questions, you can come back. If you're finished and you want to move on to the next one, you can come back here. You don't have to, you can let me know if you want. And then if you finish all of them and you want even more educational content, also let me know. Okay, so go ahead and start on this. Raise your hand or type in the chat if you have questions. And I hope you enjoy it. Next, on Thursday, hopefully we'll be able to integrate Git into this. And, oh, I know last time, I apologize. Last time I was jumping around answering questions and I lost track of time. So if you ended up staying later than you meant to, I apologize for that. This time when I will at 7 be going over some end of class stuff. So do stick around. But if you finish and you're bored, just let me know and I'll give you something else to do. All right, go off and code. Yes, the slides are on the Google Calendar and they are in the Discord. I always put the slides in the Google Calendar and the Discord.
I've done the second task.
Cool.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I don't have the Discord link. Could you send it to me in the chat?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
To you. Okay, the Google Calendar was sent to whatever email you registered for the thing with. Yes, thank you for putting the slides there. Sorry, I'm pulling up the invite thing. Yeah, and someone did put the slides in Zoom. Thank you for that.
I don't see the invite link.
I have not sent it yet. So that will be why. Okay, if you're not on the Discord, here is, I just put the invite in the chat. Yep, and there's 2 tasks, so if you're done with the first one, you can move on to the second one. And I've also got this open room if you want to jump in and share your screen with someone. You should be able to bring yourself there. Hopefully, Zoom tells me that you can.
I forgot the first part is to ask the user to input 2 numbers. Then I caught my mistake and fixed it.
Yeah. So I will at the end of class, I'll be going over how to do these, unless you want to leave it as a surprise. Yes, so Python is an object-oriented programming language. So pretty much everything that you do in Python is object-oriented programming. I won't exactly be talking about what that means in the class. You can look that up if you want to. But short answer, yes.
How do you do conditional statements?
So we haven't covered that yet. If you want to, you can look up if statements. But it is beyond the scope of this lesson. So I don't want to get into that right now, but we will get into that.
All right.
Yes, Cameron.
So say if I wanted could I have it tell me if it was going to throw an error before it actually finishes the code? Like, what if I wanted it to detect if the user inputted an integer or not? Could I have it?
So that is a good question. That would be what's called a try statement. We're not going to get into that this class, but if you want to, you can look that up. It's called try statement. For most of this class, we will just be assuming that we're all going to be good little computer users and input what we're supposed to, or that the person using it will input what they're supposed to. But that is a really good thing to be thinking about is, well, what if I give this to someone and they say, I am F years old?
Yeah. Or like they actually try and type out the number, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just trying to make sure there's no mistakes.
Yeah, it's a good thing to think about. We're not quite there yet, but that is a good thing to think about.
Are there like rescue statements like a thing in Python?
Rescue statements, do you mean like catching errors?
Like, for example, if it's saying like blank equals blank, rescue 0. Or
no,
rescue nil.
there's not rescue statements in Python. There are some similar stuff.
What was the thing called again? The try something?
Yeah, try statements.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, brought them in as floats just in case. That's totally fine.
Okay, I'm not getting it to do what I want to do in the first task.
Do you want to share your screen, or do you want to? Yeah, go ahead. I will stop sharing. Okay, you should be here. Let me make sure. Yeah. Oh, nope, you can't. Now you should be able to share your screen.
Can you see that all right?
Okay. Yes. Oh, okay, so you're using functions. You don't have to do this. You can just put it all in the main function. which is what I would recommend to not confuse you.
Okay. Should I erase all this?
Oh, you don't have to erase it.
I can make a new main.
Yeah, I would just make a function main and then,
Okay.
Oh, I see what you're doing. Are you putting,
I'm just adding.
oh, you're adding stuff to the end. Oh, okay. Yeah, I would just, so that you don't have to keep doing all the other stuff, I would just keep it one main and then erase or make multiple files or something. I don't know. We can come up with a, wait, oh, don't erase it if you don't want to. It's okay. And yes, Donovan, I'll look at your code next. Okay, your age equals input. How old are you? New age equals your, okay, yeah, so once you get your age and they input that, if you look at the error you're getting, it says can only concatenate string, not int to string. So you have to take the your age and you have to convert it to an integer or a float. And then the closing parentheses, yep. And if you run that.
Yeah. So dot press.
Can concatenate int to string. Let's see. In 10 years, it will be plus. Oh, did you save it?
What do you mean?
Well, I think it does save automatically. That looks correct to me, but I will also try typing it in mine as well. If anyone sees the error before I do, then let me know.
Does it have something to do with the 10?
It shouldn't, because you converted it to an int.
You need to convert the new age to a string in the print section on the bottom.
Yes, perfect. You're right. Thank you. I don't know why I didn't see that. Yeah, Grace said it, and then I didn't see who just said it out loud. Maybe it was Grace again. Yes, so
Come on.
because you're concatenating there. Yep. Hold on, Donovan, one second. Yes. And then
Oh my
adding a
God, thank you.
space. Yeah. Okay, great. Good. Debugging.
One
Okay,
more time, just for old time's sake. Yes. Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
guys.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, Cameron, you had your hand up, yes?
So like I made a code. Would it be okay if I shared my screen and showed it? Because
Yes, hold on, because I think Donovan asked if they could screen share.
Okay.
Real quick, and then you can go. Yeah, Donovan, go ahead. Okay, so I'm not going to go over the try statements and stuff just yet. So let's see what your error says. Unbound local area. Local variable print. Oh, that's because you have a colon after print in line 12. Okay, and then so that should work. Okay, Yajer, you had a question. Yes.
I completed both the tasks, and I was hoping if I could also share my screen so that.
Yeah.
And also, I just have a question that matter if you could see the screen.
Okay. Yeah.
This-
and then we'll
this
go to Cameron. What's wrong?
Okay. I know that part I've got. So let's say I enter 12, and then I enter 3, and I print out the sum, the difference, the product, and the quotient. So here's my question. I divide 12 by 3 and get 4.0 instead of 4. I'm not, what I don't understand is how come I got a float out of dividing 2 integers?
Yeah, sometimes Python does that because of the way that computers divide. So I probably made a mistake on my slides and just assumed it would be an integer. But now that you say that, that does sound familiar. You could probably, I don't have a great answer, but I think it's the way that it divides and stores memory. But you can Google that. But All right, yeah, if you have to go, I'll be going over how to do this code if you guys want to stick around, but if you do have to go, I see that it's done. I will go over something real quick. Okay, but yeah. Okay, let me share my screen real quick for people that need to head out. And then if you guys want to share your screen, you can. All right. So hopefully you can see this. So that's the two things. If you guys want extra practice, I do have it on this last slide, but free code camp has a lot of really good stuff, like I said. And then also, if you are wanting more examples, you can always just type stuff in the console or print expressions, print statements, and come up with your own expressions. So that's all I have for you guys today. But if you do want to stick around and show off your code, totally good. Or if you want to stick around and I can reveal some answers. All right, yeah, see you guys Thursday. Okay, Cameron, did you,
Yep.
I think Cameron
Yeah.
was next for sure.
I
Yeah.
still had something.
Okay, go ahead.
It says you had to stop screen sharing.
Oh yeah, here, it's all right. Yep.
Let me just run this so you see what's your favorite number.
Mhm. Right.
And you type 1. It's wrong.
Yep. Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
I don't have the last part set up, but I'm
That's
working on
okay.
it.
Cool, cool. All right, that's some. Oh, Sophie, I see your hand up. Sorry.
Do you know if there's a way to do this task to and ask the user to put in both numbers at once with one command?
There is. But we haven't gotten there yet. But there is a way, yes. But I don't think I want to get into that yet, just because we're at the end. But
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, yes, Jacob.
Yeah, hi. So I have the code and it should work. However, the issue is that somehow the main, like the defining the function at the very end, somehow that's not working. I don't know what happened to that.
Okay,
I'll
yeah.
show you what I mean.
Yeah, go ahead, show me.
So I have this, right? And so the main is not defined as a variable or function as it is. And so I'm trying to get that to work, and it's not.
Okay, so I see the error. So you have, so a space did get added in your
Bye,
main
Miranda.
function. Bye. So take out the space between main and your parentheses. See that?
See ya.
Oops.
Other way. Bye. Yeah, and then another thing is you accidentally left out your end parentheses on the print function.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
there you
last
go.
one. And then I think you need float, like FLOAT instead of FLT. Yeah. So now, oh, there's an extra T. Okay, now if you run it, hopefully it'll work. Oh,
There we go. You have to use.
oh, same thing. Oh, it's because you want string, not float. Sorry, I was just focusing on FLT and not what it needs to be. Yep. STR. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, and you just got some spaces. There you go. Perfect. And yes, Donovan, you can share next. All right, Donovan, go ahead. Yep. Okay. That's okay. I typed that I'm 105, so.
Thank you. I will head out.
Okay,
Thank you for your time.
All right, cool. Yeah. Awesome. And then if you want to try the rest of them, it will be doing the difference, the product, and then the quotient. Cool. Thank you, Donovan. Anyone else? All right, so I'm gonna go, if you want to stay around, I'm gonna go ahead and type out how I would approach this. You're free to go if you want. Did I say to publish it? No, don't publish it. I don't know what that means. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and show you guys what I would do. But like I said, if you want to keep working on this on your own, or if you want to head out, you're welcome to do so. All right, so for the first one, I'm just hoping you can see that. Okay, first one, ask the user to input their age, then print how old they will be in 10 years. Well, I've already got someone else's code there, but all right. So I'm going to say age equals input, enter your age, and I'm going to put a new line there since we're practicing new lines. Now I'm going to say age equals int age. And I'm going to say new age equals age plus 10, so I want to add 10. And then I want to say new age equals string new age because I'm going to add them. Now I'm going to say print in 10 years will be space, don't forget the space, plus new age. And the reason that I converted it to a string up here is because of a couple errors that I even did myself earlier. You can't, because in here we're just basically concatenating a big string, and you can't do that if you have a mix of numbers and strings, or int, float, and strings. So hopefully this will work. Let's say enter your age. In 10 years it will be 35. Yep. So are there any questions on how I did that? Okay, it doesn't, I don't see any questions. Oh yes, Sophie.
Does it mean anything if I didn't need to concatenate to a string?
If you didn't have to convert to a string, did you use a comma?
Yes.
Yeah, that's why. So if you use a comma, you don't have to do that. So that is a good point. So if I run this, it should work just fine. Yeah. But then it does add a space. But that's not a problem. But yeah, so that's why.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, if there's no questions, I'm going to go on to the next one. All right, we look good. Okay, so now ask the user to input two numbers, then print the sum, the difference, the product, and the quotient. So I'm just going to erase this here. If you need to see it later, just let me know and I'll take a picture of it or something. So I want them to input two numbers, and as Sophie pointed out, we're not going to have them input the two numbers at once. We're just going to have two separate input statements. We will learn how to do two numbers at once later, but I'm going to say first num equals input, enter a number, \n for new line. And someone asked about why I put so many spaces between my code. That is just because it makes it easier to read. You don't have to do that, but Python doesn't care if you add extra lines between your code, and I like it sometimes if I want to be able to see what I'm typing more easily. Okay. Another number. Now I'm going to say first num equals int. Oh, I'll do float just in case they entered a float. First num, I'm going to say second num equals float second num. And now I have a couple different print statements that I want to do. I'm going to save the answers to variables first. So I'm going to say, I'm going to call it num sum equals first num plus second num. Now I'm going to say num, what is it? Num difference equals first num minus Second num. All right, yeah, thanks. And then I'm gonna say num. Messing up. My cat spilled my coffee all over my keyboard. So sometimes some letters just don't work anymore. First num times second num. And then what else do we want? Quotient equals first num divided by second num. If I'm typing too fast, just let me know. Or if it's too quick. Okay, why is it yellow? Oh, it's just saying, so the yellow, if you're worried about the yellow or orange line, it's just saying we haven't used these. We've assigned them, but haven't used them. So I'm gonna print the sum is plus string sum. Next, I'm going to say print difference is plus string and the is plus string and then I'm going to say print, and don't forget all of the parentheses that you need. Quotient is plus string. Cursor got off. String num quotient. Okay, so this is everything I've done. Just going to go over it real quick. I've got first num equals input, enter a number. Second num is another input statement for them to enter another number. I'm going to convert both of these numbers to floating points, which is just decimals. Next, I'm going to do our math on them. So we wanted to add them, we wanted to subtract them, we wanted to multiply them, and then divide them. So this is just me saving those as variables. And next, I'm going to have a series of print statements. So the first one is to say what the sum is. So I'm going to say the sum is plus, and don't forget to convert it to a string because we cannot say a string plus a number because Python doesn't know what that means. And then the difference is, and then string for the difference and so on. So let's go ahead and run this. So I'm going to enter a number 45. I press enter, enter another number 60, enter. So then it prints out the sum is this, the difference is this, the product is this, and the quotient is this. So do we have any questions on any of this or how I did it?